that you have to think about is, like Greg said, what does faith mean? And what does science mean? And it so happens that these two concepts are one of the most misunderstood concepts in our generation. Faith is taken as something you just, believe, without even thinking. But the biblical faith and what it really means has to do with a process of deliberation of the mind. Because you cannot be convicted or convinced about something until there has been a mind deliberation. So faith can never really work without an element of reasoning. Even when you believe that faith is a gift, it's given to you, and your acceptance has to go through a process of reasoning. Because for you to accept the gift God has given you and to use it, you have to think through what that gift is doing in your life. So faith in itself is trust, and trust is not a standalone concept. Trust is a product of the deliberation of the mind that makes you or leads you to a judgment of either to put your trust on something or to withhold your trust from that thing. And the same thing goes with science. It might surprise most of you here, especially those who are in the scientific field, that there is no actual definition of science to date. It is still up in the air. But there is still a scope, there is still a boundary for what is not science. But for you to say exactly this is science or this is not science is very difficult. Under the metaphysical, materialistic framework, like Greg said, it's easy to exclude every other thing that is not materialistic. But that doesn't define science. That defines materialistic position. It is either philosophical materialism or methodological materialism. That doesn't define science. And also, it might shock you to know that scientific methodology itself, as we have it today, was started by a Christian. It is a Christian worldview that led to the open-mindedness to search and to seek for truth in nature in a methodological way, because the early fathers of the modern science thought it necessary to follow their theological convictions and bring it into science and use it to advance science. So my contribution today is going to be in the area of really examining the topic. Is it really a conflict, science and faith, or have they really helped each other? Greg also mentioned something about that when it comes to questions of reality. Most of the scientists that are not Christians or theists are allowed to make some judgmental conclusions and actually adjudicate on the fields of religion. But when somebody who has just a faint interest in religion makes such conclusions, his own conclusions are ruled out. But he reveals something else. What does that reveal? It reveals that you cannot really address the entirety of reality without something that has to do with religion coming in. In fact, once you have something metaphysical coming in, you have already gone beyond the scope of science. And once it's metaphysical, it could address both material and immaterial things. So in that sense, we're dealing with a situation where anyone that thinks that science and religion are in conflict doesn't understand those two fields, and in fact doesn't understand the concept of reality. Another thing I want to point out is that in the history of science, Christianity has played a major role over the years. There are a few examples where there have been conflicts, like some of you might be ready to send some questions here. There are some bites that go around, and that is like Galileo's case, Bruno, etc. Those are just few cases that dotted the history of science. They are not the normal process of interaction between science and faith. And in fact, those cases too have the real history behind them. If you dig deep and study it deeply, like some of us have done, you'll find out that the case of Galileo was not a case of conflict of science and faith. There were a whole lot of other factors. And in fact, Galileo himself remained a committed Catholic until his death. So it wasn't a matter of his faith conflicting with his science, but it was a matter of the prevailing scientific structure of the day. Many of you don't have a clue that there was another theory that was competing with the Copernican theory at that time, and most people who come against faith today don't even talk about it. And it was called the Tychonic system. The Tychonic system was able to solve the same problems that Copernicus system was solving without going as far as the Copernican system did. So at that time, there were two competing theories, which Galileo did not want to accept. He only projected Copernicanism and was trying to push the church to change their position from the geocentric system to heliocentric. But the normal scientific process of allowing a theory to emerge as a superior theory was not followed by Galileo. It was until Newton that Newton now proved through the laws of gravity that the heliocentric system was a superior theory above the geocentric system. So it was more of a scientific conflict than a religious conflict. But then Galileo himself was making religious impressions by trying to make the church adopt some religious systems that they didn't want to accept. In some case with Bruno, that one I'm not going to go into, but Galileo is one of the poster, children that you always hear people throwing around. But the conflict wasn't the way it is, because we have always heard that it was the church. They kicked him out because he was providing us good science. And in fact, Copernicus himself was a Christian. I don't know if you know that. So it wasn't like he wasn't a Christian and remained a Christian till his death. In fact, Copernicus was a dean, in his church. So it wasn't as if there has always been this conflict. So I'm going to read a few things in my conclusion. Number one is that Christian theism is known to have played a major role in the development of modern science. Many fathers of modern science were Christians who believed that God created the universe to be discoverable. Evidence of this fact and the positive effects of Christian theological premises on the growth of science are exemplified in the works of James Clerk Maxwell, which you mentioned some of them, in Isaac Newton. You have people like Francis Bacon, who discovered the scientific method. And you also have so many others. There's always been this mutual benefit when people mix their scientific findings with their Christian faith. That's what led them to where we are today. Number two, the theological principles that inspired somebody like Francis Bacon was shown in what he said. And I quote, "The scientific pioneers who followed Bacon and such as Newton and the chemist Robert Boyle saw their task as working with God and working with God's gifts of the senses and minds to recover a lost knowledge of nature." Unquote. So in the much debated area of cosmology and so many other areas of science, both Copernicus and Galileo, like I said earlier, were Christians, as well as Tycho, Kepler, and Newton. So these are all Christians who were the founding fathers of modern science. But the major point that I want to make here today is that if there were a conflict, a real conflict between science and faith, we will not have the record that we have among the Nobel Prize winners. A man called Baruch Chavez has written a book, 100 Years of the Nobel Prize. And I'll read from what I wrote here. This is like a condensed version. So if you want to check out the book, it's called 100 Years of Nobel Prizes by Baruch Chavez. In this book, from 1901 to 2000, it shows that there have been 654 Nobel laureates. Only 10.5% were atheists or agnostics or free thinkers. So free thinkers, atheists, and agnostics combined make up 10.5% of the 654 laureates, whereas 65.4% were Christians. These are science Nobel Prize winners in science. And 20% Jews. That means that Judeo-Christian faith combined, both Jews and Christians, make up 85.4% of the total Nobel winners. Baruch Chavez records, and I quote, Christians have won a total of 78.3% of all Nobel Prizes in peace, 72.5% in chemistry, 65.3% in physics, 62% in medicine, 54% in economics, 49.5% in literature. And Jews have won 17% in chemistry, 26% in medicine and physics, 40% in economics, 11% in peace and literature. So these combined make up 85.4% of Nobel Prizes. These percentages are striking because they show that top successful scientists, which amounts to about 89.5% in chemistry, 91.3% in physics, and 88.0% in medicine, are affiliated to Judeo-Christian theistic tradition. This report is an indication that rather than religion being an enemy of science and scientists, it seems to be a facilitator of scientific innovation. Thank you.